Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 13, text number 4, page 567. Tat satram cha yacha yadrik cha tat satram yacha yadrik cha Yad vikari yatas chayad Yad vikari yatas chayad Sachayo yad pavascha Sachayo yad pavascha Tat samasena Me Shrinu Tat Samasena Me Shrinu Tat Citram Yachad Yadvikcha Yad Vikari Yatas Chayad Sachayo Yad Pavascha Tat samasena me shrinu. Word for word. Tat, that drum, field of activities. Yat, what? Cha, also. Yadrik, as it is. Cha, also. Yat, having what? Vikari, changes. Ata, from which? Cha, also. Yat, what? Sa, he. Cha, also. Ya, who? What? Having what? Bhagavad influence. Cha, also. Tat, that. Samasena, in summary. Me, from me. Shrinu, understanding. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Now please hear from me a brief description of the field of activities and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, and who that knower of the field of activities is, what his influences are. Purport. The Lord is describing the field of activities and the knower of the field of activities in their constitutional position. One has to know how this body is constituted, the materials of which this body is made, under whose control this body is working, how the changes are taking place, where from the changes are coming, what the cause are, what the reasons are, what the ultimate goal of individual soul is, what the actual form of the individual soul is. One should also know the distinction between the individual living soul and the supreme soul, super soul. Their distinction influences their potentials, etc. One just has to understand this Bhagavad-Gita directly from the description given by the Supreme Personality Godhead, and all this will be clarified. But one should be careful not to consider the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every body to be one with the individual soul, the jiva. This is something like equating the potent and the impotent. Om Argyanantaram Dasya Jananjana Slakaya Sakshurimitam Jaina Tadme Shri Varenima Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Danti Swam Padantikam Panchakalpatarujascha Kripasindu Evacha Panyam Bhavnevyo Vaishnevyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we welcome everyone to Bhagavad-Gita class, those who are present and also those who are listening on FM. This is ISKCON Sandwich. Prabhupada started this program, that we have the morning program, Bhagavatam class, and then service during the day, then the Bhagavad Gita class at night. We call it the ISKCON Sandwich. Sandwich is 2 pieces of bread, one on the bottom, one on the top, and something in the middle. So the bottom is the morning program, Srimad Bhagavatam class. The middle is our service during the day, and the top is the Bhagavad Gita class. So not many people come to Bhagavad Gita class. People have service at this time. But Prabhupada, one lecturer, said that unless you understand the Bhagavad Gita, then you won't be able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So whether we come to class or not, everyone should try to understand the Bhagavad Gita. Now this chapter is called Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. And from text 1 to 7, it talks about etc. gya, which means the field and the knower of the field. And so this is a conjunction to the last chapter. This is talking about the individual soul and the material body. And sometimes I heard that people should read the 13th chapter first before reading the entire Bhagavad Gita. Now I'll give a brief summary here of what this verse is talking about. Krishna raises 5 points in this verse, upon which he will elaborate later in this chapter. How the body is constituted, that means the constitution of the body. That will be explained in texts 6 and 7. What changes the body undergoes, that will be explained in text 7 and 20. How and when and where the body is produced will be explained in text 6, 21, 22, and 30. The identity of the knower of the field of activities will be explained in text 14 to 18 and 23. And the influence of the knower explained in text 14 to 18. Although Krishna will discuss all these 5 points and address the remaining topics from text 2, he says he will explain them only in brief because they are limitless topics. However, should Arjuna wish to know them in greater detail, Krishna next tells Arjuna where such information can be found. That knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings, especially presented in Vedanta Sutra without reasoning as the cause and effect. That means Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a summary of the Vedanta Sutra. The Prabhupada lectured on this verse 4 times, once in Paris, once in Hyderabad, once in, anyway, 2 more places. And he gave many lectures on the Bhagavad-Gita. And he began his lecture by saying the living entity is like a spark from the fire. Spark from the fire can fall down in 3 places. It can fall down on the dry grass, it can fall down on the wet grass, it can fall down in the water. If it falls down on the dry grass, it continues to burn. Mode of goodness, or the Nityasita living entities who come in this world but never get contaminated by material nature. If it falls on the wet grass, it will burn for some time, but will go out eventually. And that is the mode of passion. And if it falls on the water, it will immediately go out. And that is the mode of ignorance. So the living entity, when we come in this material world, we come under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, we should understand that life cannot come from matter. Krishnadas Kaviraj makes this point clear in Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Adi Lila. In chemical, the living entity were not just a combination of chemicals, which the scientists want to tell everyone, or they teach everyone in school, that you're just a combination of chemicals. But we challenge them over and over again. We say, we'll give you all the chemicals. You bring one tree, dead tree, back to life. Or you bring one ant back to life. Or you bring anything back to life. And they say, well, maybe in the future, but we can't do that right now. Sometime in the future, we'll do that. But that's like a post-dated check. If I give you a post-dated check for $1 million, it has no value. So they're making promises and doing so much research to try to find out how the material world is going on and so many things. But Srila Vyasadeva, he did all the research already. So they don't have to go through so much trouble. They can simply read the Srimad Bhagavatam, read the Bhagavad-Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and they can understand everything about how this world is going on. But they don't accept that. They think it's this mythology. They don't accept the Vedas. Veda means the end of knowledge. So before Kali Yuga, everybody was Kali Gya, or people were called there was no need to write down anything. People could hear one time and they would remember everything. Even when the sages at Namasaranya heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami was there, and he heard all 18 verses, remembered all 18 verses, and then spoke it again. So he didn't need to write anything down. He didn't have a computer. He didn't have a spell check or any database. He didn't have anything. He just remembered everything. So that was in Dwapara Yuga. People had finer brain tissue. In Kali Yuga, Mandastamanda Matayo, everyone is, the qualities of the man is going down and down. Day by day, their understanding of spiritual matters, spiritual life is becoming less and less. And we're hearing in Bhagavatam class about Hiranyakashipu, who had a beautiful son who was a pure devotee of Krishna and can speak Vaishnava philosophy. And Hiranyakashipu became angry when he heard this. So this is like a human being is compared, is worse than a venomous snake. A venomous snake can be charmed by mantra, but a foolish person, no matter what you tell them, there's no way to appease them. So when people hear Vaishnava philosophy and see the devotees, they become more angry. It increases their poison, their venom. So they're worse than a poison snake. So Hiranyakashipu, that was his character. Although Prahlad Maharaj was only a 5-year-old boy, was speaking Vaishnava philosophy, he couldn't appreciate that. To the point where he wanted to kill his 5-year-old son, and which is pretty cruel. But of course, we were distributing the Bhagavatam in the airports in the 70s, and they went to Prabhupada and said they're throwing your books in the garbage. People will get a Bhagavatam, they look at it, see the Sanskrit, and they think, well, I can't read this, and I don't want to carry it around or something, so they throw it in the garbage. So Prabhupada said, that's not surprising, because in Kali Yuga, they're throwing their babies in the garbage. And this happens all the time in the West. The people collect the garbage out of the garbage can. They find dead bodies, dead babies. So this is the degradation of Kali Yuga. But Prabhupada, but then good thing, but the janitor, people work in the airport, they would collect the Bhagavatam that people threw in the garbage, and they'd bring them back to devotees. We'd buy them back for 50 cents and sell them again. So anyway, Prabhupada said if they just touch a book or see one word, read one word or one page or anything, they get some agyata sikriti, they get some benefit anyhow. They gave some donation and they did some service anyhow. So some people were fortunate enough, they had some pious credits in their previous life, could just appreciate the Bhagavatam, appreciate the devotees, and became devotees. But some people, the atheists, the Maya Prakriti Gyan, the Mudhas, the Radhamas, these kind of people, they never become devotees. And Prabhupada was speaking with one reporter on an interview, a television program. The reporter said to Prabhupada, what would happen if everybody in the whole world became Krishna conscious? So you expect Prabhupada to say something like, everyone will be peaceful and happy. But that time he didn't say that. He looked at the reporter, the man who was questioning, and said, don't worry, you'll never become Krishna conscious. So that's the nature of some people. So here we have the analytical study. 5 points. The field, or the body, the changes of the body, the identity, how the body is produced, the identity of the soul, and influence of knowledge, or super soul. These 5 points, Krishna said, we read that, are given briefly. So the constitutional position of the body, of the soul, the body has a field of activities. Just like the earthworm lives in a hole, and when it rains, he comes out of the hole. But when it dries up again, he goes back in his hole. And that his field of activity is very limited. Or it's like a child who plays in a playground, he would have fence around it. He can play as much as he wants, but he's limited to his field. So there's 8,400,000 species of life, and everyone has their field of activity. But the birds, you know, they can fly in the sky, but they're also can only go so high and so far. Other animals, but the Kinnaras or the demigods, they can fly from one planet to another. So there are different, according to the body one gets, the different activities are there of for the living entity. So the field, the body is the field, and no other field is the soul. You know, Denos Menyatadehe Komramya Vanamjara Vedantara Prapti Chiras Chatra Namuyate. The soul is transmigrating. That's the next one. Changes. At first, it's said by Lord Kapila that there are 24 elements which make up the constitution of the living entity. This is also unknown to the scientists. They say there's only 10 elements. So the 24 elements there's the 5 gross elements, and then there's which are the water, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Then there's 5 subtle elements: smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. Senses for acquiring knowledge, and the organs for action. Number 10, namely the auditory sense, which means hearing, the sense of taste, the tongue, the tactile sense, the sense of touch, the sense of sight, the eyes, and the sense of smell, the nose. The active organs for speaking, the tongue, the active organs for working, the legs, and those for traveling, generating, and evacuating. These are 10 in number. For 5 are the gross elements, 5 are the subtle elements, and in other words, you have the senses, and then the working senses, and then there's 4 more, which are the mind, intelligence, ego, and the contaminated consciousness. So that makes 24. And also, the time factor is included somewhere. So there's either 24, 25, or sometimes the super soul, 26. In either case, is how the body is constituted, constituents of the body. Now there are vikaras, the changes of the body. The body goes through 6 changes, which no one can stop. First he's born, then he grows for some time, then he stays for some time, then he reproduces, then he decays or starts to fall apart, and then he vanquishes. So we have that changing body in Prabhupada's museum upstairs, across from Prabhupada's Samadhi, which the showing how the living entity is going through these 6 changes. Although they sell so many cosmetics and so many operations people can get to try to keep themselves looking young. But this is against the laws of nature. Everyone has to, Bhagavad-Gita says, for one who's taking birth, death is certain, and when death is certain, rebirth is again. It's going on continuously. So no one can stop old age, no one can stop death. Even though the doctors think they're stopping death. But Prahlad Maharaj said that the parents cannot save the child, the boat cannot save the drowning man, and the doctors cannot save the patient. So according to the person's karma or activities, it's already been decided, his destiny. So sometimes a child is born dead, or sometimes a child dies at the age of 5, or 25, or 50, or 70, or 90. This is all predestined, can't be changed. Although the doctors think they're saving people, but it's only because the person's karma that he's getting the right medicine, and he's not supposed to die at that time. But this is going on. And we know from practical experience that you get, when you take birth, that's Annamoya, then there's a, first you just, all you can do is eat. Think about food. The child takes birth, he's completely dependent on the mother for all his necessities. As he grows up, he begins thinking, feeling, willing. Then he comes to Gyan, Vigyan stage where he can acquire knowledge. And then Anandamaya stage, or Anandamaya Vyasat. This is the stage of self-realization. So if a human being doesn't come to the stage of Anandamaya, then he's no better than an animal. So living entities are, everyone is eating, sleeping, mating, defending. This is the natural tendency of all living entities. But the human being is different than the animal, but the human being has intelligence. Animals don't have intelligence. They can only eat, sleep, mate, and defend, but they can't be instructed, given good instruction. But you can train a dog, but you can't get him to chant 16 rounds or perform devotional service, unless he's a special soul. Like Shivananda Sain had a dog, and the dog went to Mahaprabhu and delivered the dog, went back to Godhead. He had the dog chanting Hare Krishna. But that was a special case. But in general, everybody, all the conditioned souls do these 4 activities: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But the human being should tattva brahmajignasa, should inquire about the absolute truth. This is the real business of human form of life. If one does not make inquiry, then he's still on the level of an animal. No matter how well dressed he may be, no matter how much knowledge he may have, no matter how qualified he may be, he still has no good qualities if one is not a devotee of the Lord, because he's always on the mental platform and always only interested in satisfying his senses. But we know to satisfy the senses, this Prahlad Maharaj says, is calling choosing the chewed. So you choose some sugar cane for some time, and it's very sweet. But then you spit it out because nothing left. But then if you come back and try to chew it again, you'll get no taste. So this is what the whole world is doing nowadays. They're simply chewing the chewed, trying to get some pleasure by repeatedly doing the same thing. We heard this morning that Prabhupada went to Paris and saw how men that were 75 years old are still going to the nightclub and still trying to enjoy their senses. And Prabhupada had a conversation with a cardinal in Paris and tried to convince him that meat eating wasn't good. And the man was giving so many arguments how he thought it was good. And Prabhupada said, well, at least don't kill the cow. And even that he couldn't understand or wouldn't agree with. And later it was found that he died in the house of a prostitute. So he was a so-called spiritual leader, but still, he was still interested in sense gratification. So this is going on. So the living entity goes through the different stages of life, from boyhood to youth to old age, and then vanquishes. So these three, this is the changes of the body, field of activities, how the body is produced. We know that when the beginning of creation, Mahavishnu lies down in the causal ocean, and from his breathing come out so many universes. And then a lotus flower stems from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and from him Lord Brahma sits on that lotus flower. And from the stem of that lotus flower, all the universes are created. And all the living entities are then set into motion again, and to accept bodies according to their karma. So from Lord Brahma, so many different kinds of living entities are generated. This is all explained in the 2nd and 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is perpetually going on. The living entities, Nityabhara, eternally conditioned. And the living entities in the spiritual world are eternally liberated. Krishna says in 15th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita that there are two kinds of living entities, those who are fallible and those who are infallible. In the material world, the living entity is called fallible because he has to change his body. He has to go through this cycle of birth and death. Where in the spiritual world, everyone has a Satchidananda body, eternally full of knowledge and bliss. And so they're perfected beings, and they can't make any mistakes, can't do anything wrong. Everything they do is Satchidananda, eternally full of knowledge and bliss. So this is the difference between the material world and the spiritual world. So the goal of human life is Natyavidu Sarakdhimi Vishnu, is to understand that we're not this body. And we hear this over and over again because this repetition of a subject matter is necessary to get the proper understanding. But we are conditioned souls, so to actually understand that we're not this body, that we're a spirit soul, that will be revealed to one who can chant the Maha Mantra without offense. This is the Yuga Dharma. Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalo, Kalunas Devanas Devanas Devagatya. So in this age, we can't perform austerities, we can't perform sacrifices, we can't do temple worship in the proper way. But so the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we are required to chant 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra on the japa beads every day. But we have to avoid the 10 offenses. As long as we're chanting, and if you're chanting your 16 rounds every day, but there's no ecstatic symptoms, the heart doesn't change, the hairs are not standing on end, there's no tears coming from the eyes, that means that your chanting is offensive, means that your heart is steel framed. And steel framed heart cannot attain prema or love for Krishna. The heart has to become soft. And the way to make the heart soft is by chanting pure name. So offenses to the holy name are there, but there's no way to counteract offenses to the holy name. But we have to continue chanting and pray to the holy name. Naman Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. The holy name is not different than Krishna. So when Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago, the holy name came first. There was a lunar eclipse. All the residents of Navadvip went to the Ganga to take baths because the eclipse is inauspicious. So you're supposed to stand half submerged in the Ganga during the time of eclipse to counteract the inauspiciousness. And at that time they were all chanting the Maha Mantra. So this came first, the holy name incarnated first, and then Mahaprabhu took birth. And when he grew up after his childhood pastimes as Nimai Pandit, he started his Sankirtan movement. And that time, Lord Nityananda also joined him, and all his associates also joined him to propagate, to spread this Sankirtan movement. And so the way we can understand we're not this body is when you chant the pure name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you chant the pure name, then it will be revealed to you that you're not this body, that you're a spirit soul, and your sarup, what your identity is, and how to perform Raga Nuga Bhakti. That will be revealed to you. Yasadeve Para Bhaktir Yasadeve Yata Guru. If one has influencing faith in Guru and Krishna, then everything will be revealed to you. So we have to have that faith. We have to keep chanting. It may take some time. It's a gradual process. It's not overnight. The Jivera Survai, Krishnara Nityadas, that's our identity, eternal servants of Krishna. But it's not that can be awakened immediately. Of course, there's cases. There's the Kripa Siddha, Sadhana Siddha, and Nitya Siddha. So the perfection, the Nitya Siddha souls, they come in the material world from the spiritual world to assist the Lord in His pastimes. And there's these persons who become perfect by performing sadhana. That's what we're performing, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So if we do everything with great care and attention and continue our sadhana by rising early in the morning, attending Mangalarti, chanting 16 rounds, attending Guru Puja class, all these things, this will help to purify us so we can come to a higher consciousness. And then there's Kripa Siddha, which means someone gets the mercy without performing sadhana. And examples of that are Jagai Madai, or Murgari the Hunter, or Sukadeva Goswami, he got Kripa Siddha, or became perfect without performing sadhana, by the mercy of a devotee. If you get the mercy of a pure devotee, you can get Kripa Siddha. We know Jagai and Madai were so sinful that there wasn't a sin they hadn't committed, although they were born in Brahmin family. So when Yamaraj was asked to ask his scribes, he had 10,000 scribes, and he told them to write down the sins of Jagai and Madai. So after 1 month of trying to write down all the sins of Jagai and Madai, they said this is an impossible task. So, but because Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur were sent by Lord Chaitanya to preach to everyone, they decided to deliver Jagai and Madai. So Jagai and Madai were delivered by Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and overnight they changed their character from sinful debauchees to pure Vaishnavas, and they started chanting 2 lakhs of the Maha Mantra every single day. So this is called Kripa Siddha. But that's like thinking sometimes someone gets an honorary degree from the university without going to school and taking all the courses. So one may sit at home and think that I don't have to go to school, I'll get an honorary degree. But this is not going to happen in most cases. It may happen, rarely happens. So we have to go through the process, and we have to perform our mighty sadhana bhakti, perform our sadhana every single day, and try to keep ourselves in the mode of goodness. And Prabhupada was asked by some reporters, can you show some magic? And Prabhupada pointed to his disciples and said, this is my magic. Because by Prabhupada's order, he turned drug addicts, hippies, people who were completely in the mode of ignorance and passion, people who were didn't even know anything about how to keep clean. They were taking baths maybe once a week. They didn't have a proper facility. They didn't know anything. But Prabhupada had to teach his new devotees, new disciples, everything about how to live, how to at least be a human being. And gradually he started this society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So the devotee in this movement, at least we know how to live very regulated life, and how to be clean and have all good qualities which are absent in materialists. So this is the nature of Krishna consciousness, is we want to awaken our love for Krishna by this process of performing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And hopefully, we'll hope against hope that one day we'll be able to start to develop our love for Krishna. And Vrindavan is the holiest place in the whole universe, because Krishna had his pastimes here. Mayapur and Vrindavan are non-different. So Mayapur is the mercy dham, because Lord Chaitanya doesn't accept offenses. So you have to understand Mayapur to understand Vrindavan. But Prabhupada made this temple here, and he expected his fledgling devotees, disciples, to also stay here and manage and run this temple. But in most cases, if the devotees should live in Mayapur to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya before coming to Vrindavan, living in Vrindavan. In any case, Vrindavan is meant for retirement, meant for bhajan. It's not meant for living a modern spiritual life with all these modern facilities, swimming pool and weight room and all these things they're making nowadays, and all the signboards, advertisements, making Vrindavan into an ordinary city. But for the most part, Vrindavan is meant for bhajan, for simply chanting Hare Krishna and utilizing the last few years of our life and becoming purified. So the last point in this purport, Prabhupada says that we should not make the mistake of thinking that the soul, that the personality Godhead in every body is to be one with the individual soul. The jiva. This is something like equating the potent with the impotent. In other words, the power with the powerful. So we have the power, but we're not the powerful. So one man was said he was the greatest, but then he got Parkinson's. Now he can't even lift a cup of tea. So where did his greatness go? Well, this is Mayavadi philosophy, and Prabhupada over and over again, in all his purports, was very strong about defeating Mayavadi philosophy. They say, Brahma Satya Jagat Midya, the material world is false, and Brahman, and becoming one, is the truth. But we don't agree with that. The material world is not false. It's not that we're not sitting here and I'm not speaking, but it's temporary. We'll not be here forever. We'll have to change our body. The world is changing all the time. So everything is temporary, but it's not false. And to merge into the Brahman effulgence, that is also a temporary position. Ruha Kachena Padam Padam Vimukti Maninas says those whose intelligence is not pure and do not take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, even if they rise up to the Brahman effulgence, they still run the risk of coming back into the material world because they have not taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So this Mayavadi philosophy has been spread all over the world. And when Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago, he defeated the sannyasis in Benares. Benares was the seat for Mayavadis. And Prakasananda Saraswati was the chief of the Mayavadi sannyasis. And Lord Chaitanya said that I gave this man leprosy because he's a Mayavadi, and Mayavadis are offenders that say that God cannot have arms, God cannot have legs, God cannot have a nose, mouth, ears, eyes, nose, all these things. They say God is deaf, dumb, lame. But that is not a fact. The man is created in the image of God, and Krishna says, Aham bija pratapita, I am the seed-giving Father. So Krishna is a person. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Iswara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nandirade Govindam Sarakarana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. He's a person. We're persons, and if we have something that God doesn't have, then we would be greater than God. So God is a person, and he can come in this material world by his Atmamaya, by his Yogamaya potency, and perform pastimes, like he did 5,000 years ago, he did 500 years ago, to prove that he's a person, and this is a personal philosophy, this is Vaishnava philosophy. This is not Hinduism. Many times people think that we become Hindus. When we try to give them a Bhagavad-Gita, they think it's a Hindu scripture. But if you look in the Bhagavad-Gita, the word Hindu or Hinduism is not mentioned anywhere. Of course, it may be, it's not in the index, it's not anywhere that I checked it. So we have not become Hindus, we become Vaishnavas. Vaishnava means that we're eternal servants of Krishna. This is the living entity, identity, and Aham Brahmasmi, I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. and it's Sanatana Dharma, eternal occupation of the living entity. But Prabhupada made a point on this purport to make it clear that the soul and the individual soul and the super soul, although they're in the same body, they're never considered to be one. They're always separate identities. But the Lord is so kind that He agrees to be there in the body of all living entities as a super soul. Like two birds on a tree, one bird is witnessing and the other bird is eating the fruits. So the super soul is witnessing the activities of the individual soul, and the individual soul is eating the fruits of the tree. So he's waiting for the soul to turn to him. Sarvadharma Prikshaja Mamekam Sarnamja Pamtam Sarvapamejo Mokshashami Mahasuchaha. By this process of surrender, the super soul can be understood and reached to one who surrenders to Krishna. So this should be clear that we want to tell this to the whole world that it's not all one, and that there is a distinction between God and the living entity, and all these things are explained in the Bhagavad-Gita. And the whole purpose of the Bhagavad-Gita is to get the people to understand that Krishna is the speaker of the Bhagavad-Gita, and He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So our time is up. Anybody have any intelligent questions? Mr. Question Man?
Hare Krishna. Just like Hare Krishna Mahamantra is pure name. So when we are chanting Hare Krishna mantra, you said you should chant purely. The mantra is already pure. Then how is the difference between the chanting purely and the mantra Hare Krishna?
What's the question?
The question is, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is already pure.
Yeah.
And when we are chanting, you said we should chant purely the mantra.
Yeah.
The mantra is already pure, then how is that we chant the mantra purely?
How is it word?
The mantra you said you should chant purely.
Yeah, I understand that.
You should chant purely. The mantra is already pure. And what is the difference between the mantra purely and pure?
Because that question is raised in the Krishna book, 10th Canto Srimad Bhagavatam. How can we chant the holy name is pure? So how can we chant the name with these material senses? The tongue and the vocal cords is material. So how can we chant something spiritual with material senses? And the answer is that these senses have to become purified. Tashri Krishna Nama Di Namavad Indriyani. That Krishna cannot be understood with blunt material senses, only with purified senses. So the more we chant, the more our senses become purified, the more we can understand the nature and get the benefit of chanting the holy name. Otherwise, we're just chanting the alphabet, which is a semblance. Bhakti-yoga Thakur, if you read Harinam Chintamani, describes that if you're chanting Namaparad, it's a semblance of the holy name. It's not the real holy name. The holy name is pure and can never be contaminated. But our chanting is not pure. Our senses are not pure. So we have to have purified senses to chant the pure name.
So this one you get by the mercy of the Lord, by Guru. You get the mercy of the Lord, Krishna, or by Guru. We get the mercy, then we can chant purely.
Yes, it's required. You have to get the mercy of a pure devotee.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Bhagavad-Gita, Srila Bhagavad-Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.